Well, my first guest here is Mr. Joe Grimes. He's the Chief Operating Officer of XNX Incorporated, stock symbol XSNX. Joe, good to see you again.
Good morning.
Now, we had a little bit of a teaser from you on last week's show, part one of our feature at the San Francisco Money Show. Great to have you now for an extended interview. Tell us again what the company does.
XNX is a solar energy company focused on thin film manufacturing.
Now, when you say thin film manufacturing, that can conjure up a lot of images in the layperson's mind. Why don't you tell us exactly what that means?
It's interesting that you should ask that. There's basically two kinds of solar panels out there, silicon and thin film. So thin film deposits different kinds of metals on a substrate, and the depth of that is about 1/1000th of the material required for a traditional cell. So as we move forward in technology, thin film promises to really reduce the cost of photovoltaics.
This is what we've been talking about with your CEO, Tom Djokovic, about the relative cost of solar power versus the status quo. And the challenge for solar power to become a viable energy production alternative is to get that cost per watt, I guess, down. What are you seeing as the main challenge for that?
So typically when you talk about grid parity, bringing the cost down, you're talking about $1 per watt. And XNX has a unique way to approach that problem. We're integrating hard disk drive manufacturing. And in the hard disk drive manufacturing world, they're very good at uniformity, high rate deposition on small areas. They're very good at increasing the efficiencies of their materials, of the quality control of upping the yields. To be able to compete and have grid parity in the marketplace, you need to be able to control all your materials. And our unique approach to it, that bridging the gap between thin film and the hard disk drive, allows us to fine-tune our processes for us to be able to manufacture in small quantities and to control that uniformity. And our forecasts show this combination of thin film and hard disk drive technology to be able to drive the cost below $1 a watt. So our goal is to achieve that grid parity.
Well, what's interesting is we've kind of had learned to take for granted, I guess, the production of energy using fossil fuels, using nuclear power, in some cases hydroelectricity, which is, free like the solar energy is. But nothing seems to get people's attentions more than shortages or high prices. Now, last year in 2008, we got the high price slap in the face when we saw things like gasoline hitting $5 a gallon, and we knew that if we didn't start changing our ways, that would start hitting electricity production as well before too long. And we see so many people here at this money show that are so interested in alternative green energy technology. You must feel, being involved with a company like SNX, that you're at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, what we're learning from the people who've come to this conference is that most of them expect this decrease in the price of energy to be a temporary problem. That when the global economies start heating back up, the scarcity of oils and the coals are going to drive those prices up. So in a sense, I'm very fortunate to be at XNX because as those scarce fuels increase in price, we're driving the cost of photovoltaics and solar down. So we're very aggressive in that space.
So this manufacturing process that you folks are basically, I'll just say you're all over this right now. This is your main focus. Tom Djokovic, your CEO, on a recent program, described that as revolutionary in the solar industry. Why is it revolutionary?
Thin film, CIGS, that's what XNX does, has typically struggled between going from high efficiencies in the lab and transition it into production. So many of the ways that thin film CIGS is being produced right now is in large area web processes, 1,000-foot rolls. That's a challenge. What XNX and our business partner are focusing on is going to the small area deposition where we can control uniformity. where we can control all the processes associated with the deposition process, in which we can slowly, incrementally increase the rate of production, optimize the different uniformity of the layers, increasing the efficiency of the solar cells themselves, and controlling the processes to increase the yields. And the net result is the dramatic decrease in the cost of solar.
Let's assume that you can begin this manufacturing process and you're starting to churn out this product. What about customers? I know that that is part of what you do as far as generating potential sales, or I'll call it pent-up demand for the product. Where does that stand in relation to what you folks are attempting to do right now?
So XNX currently has $43 million worth of solar panel orders signed and on our books. And we have been fortunate to be able to transition to a CIGS module. So currently we have clearly identified demand for the product, and we've got several companies that might be interested in joint venturing us to bring that manufacturing to market.
So $43 million of pent-up demand, we'll call it, as you say, executed contracts, and you're probably getting a call every couple of weeks, where are my CIGS? Yes. What steps does a company have to take to get from a signed contract to manufacturing to delivery, which equates revenues?
So we're focusing not on developing new technologies, but executing what's out there in the market space. And so by taking the skills, the experience, and the talent in the hard disk drive industry and bridging the gap over to thin film, we believe that we can produce CIGS at a very low cost very quickly to service those contracts.
Okay, now for the, we go back to the magic number that you described, $1 per watt. Using your CIGS manufacturing technology, or this manufacturing process, I guess is what I should use, do you think that your product is in line or closing in on that magic number? I mean, that seems to be a challenge in the solar industry.
It is a huge challenge, and it's a challenge for XNX. But the forecasts and the models that we've put together and the work that we're doing with our business partner really adds to the ability for XNX to achieve that grid parity, for us to bring to the market a technology that has the capability of driving those prices down significantly. We're very excited about it.
Yeah, we're following XNX for about 4 or 5 years, and we've seen an interesting evolution in the company from when we first started following the company. You were essentially research and development, and now you've moved into where you're about to launch manufacturing. You've generated $43 million of advance orders. When can people who are following the company expect the next logical step to occur?
So the focus of an operations guy like myself is to try to produce samples as soon as possible of the process, of that manufacturing process that we're going to bring to production. Currently, I think Tom on a previous show illustrated some of those layers. So we're working very hard to get us sample CIGS cells before the March 2010 timeframe. Those are key milestones that we're achieving.
Now, if you're able to do that, if you're able to come up with these sample CIGS cells, what is the procedure from that point on? Do you then go out to customers of the product and look, we can do it right now, let's get an advance? I mean, how does that work?
So we're working with a whole variety of different customers right now, end users, potential joint venture companies, and we're lining them up and providing them with the milestones so they can see us achieving these milestones. The samples that you just mentioned is one of them. The other is to put in place a pilot line, a full pilot line to produce wafers, 4.91 inch wafers with CIGS cells on them. And that's what the market is waiting for.
Very interesting. In the last several years, and even in the last several weeks, we've seen the conceptual side of the company from your CEO, Tom Djokovic. We've seen the scientific side of the company from your Chief Technical Officer a couple of weeks ago. And now I'm seeing the business side of the operation. Joe, I appreciate you being on the program again. XNX, stock symbol XSNX, our guest is Joe Grimes. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate the time.